Hey, David, you're on mute still.
Is that's better.
Yeah, there we go. How's it going?
It's Monday.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, Actually not bad. Hmm, I might be I'm exploring the idea of buying a business.
Okay. That's a that can be a big decision. What kind of business you talking about?
Uh, we'll just leave it a car industry because of
Car.
yes.
Yeah.
Um, it's profitable if I don't screw it up. It runs itself if I don't screw it up. I mean, the management team is all in place, right? It's not the
Right. Right.
the owner is not working in the business every day anymore and has
Yeah, you're not
ever.
you're not having to pick an owner operator business and turn it into a non-owner operator business. Yeah,
Right.
that's always helpful.
Yeah. Like, and especially when they're the face of the business, and he's like, I haven't been I haven't, my name's on it, but I'm not interfacing with customers. I'm not in the sales process
Right.
at all. Um, so that's perfect.
Well, yeah, now the time of year for that kind of stuff because I tell you, everyone's getting busy right now,
Yeah.
and um, but not necessarily with work. Um, Down here in East Texas, school started a couple weeks back,
Right.
and the soccer season, city soccer league season starts up here this week, and I'm a coach. So like seriously, uh today is the first day of what is going to be the next 8 to 10 weeks of just to the wall, to the wall. Um we'll see how that goes. But I I do business wise, I got an email last week. I don't really want to do it, but also I need to do it to get in front of people. Got an email last week that my local chamber of commerce has got an RFP out for their new website.
I realize my microphone has fallen behind my monitor, so this might sound better.
Oh yeah, it's a little better. Uh, so I spent like, here's the thing, as a business owner who I'm not really used to doing RFPs.
Okay. Yeah.
Like um, I've never done one before. They're how to do it, and like I know people in the construction industry. They're like, it's just normal,
Sure.
right? Like
Right.
um,
I mean, I mean, in construction industry and government, in some other industries, there's a lot of expectation that you're going to bid a proposal.
right.
Right.
So I spent like a whole day and a half, like literally starting it up, looking into what I might do, reading the proposal, and like waffling back and forth and whether I was actually going to put in a bid. Um, but you see, the thing is, they only put the bid out to chamber companies, members of the chamber that are IT services,
Okay.
and members of the chamber who are advertising and promotion.
Okay.
And you see around here, these advertising and promotion companies, they come in and they bid up these sorts of things and they build the crappiest websites. I don't, you're in advertising and promotion. I don't understand how these people in advertising, sorry, I'm going to say, I don't understand how people who are in advertising or promotion can make pretty decent ads, like good stuff locally, right? But the websites are just awful, objectively awful.
Right. Because it's not their space. It's not their industry. That's not what they know. It's not what they've invested in. They don't hire for it either. Like we would hire for it. We would hire people who are interface and UX and web based and web focused.
Right.
But they didn't need to. They still get the bids. They still win the jobs.
Well, that's because I don't think the IT companies bid on.
Right.
They don't want the headache of dealing with websites because from an IT person standpoint, I pay $25 a month. I set up my website. Like,
Right.
by the time that cost me.
Arguably, it's not even in the IT industry. I mean, web design, web service, it's either in design industry or it's in the advertising industry or it's in the larger thing that is tech, which is not really an IT company.
Right.
IT is a thing that we have just as much as anyone else. And so web design companies are really what they're looking for. And if they're looking for local web designers, and if they're looking at IT, that's not necessarily web designer.
So many of those local guys, anybody who's a local web designer, like, don't run their own businesses, or if they do, they're not chamber members, right?
Right.
So I decided today that I would go ahead and do it, and utilized. God, I love ChatGPT. I want to tell you this right now. I
Yes.
have ChatGPT set up like perfectly. Okay. I went out and took a bunch of my writings from before ChatGPT, process them through with a really good prompt to create a voice context guide that gets attached to my projects in ChatGPT.
Right.
And then I built out the entirety of Coexius's business documentation. I actually have it all in Confluence. By the way, Confluence is about the only Atlassian product that I actually want to use.
Not it.
Uh, and um, and and with all this stuff put together, right? I'm able to go in there and be like, here's the RFP, right? I need help building a response. And dude, it throws out a beautiful 4-page.
It knows what it should look like.
Right. It talks to me about budget and pricing, right? So it's so great.
Yep. I've been
So
using
good.
it to build financial models. So, I mean, and these are not real financial models. These are spitball estimate back of the napkin models to understand what change looks like and how things are in place. When I want real models, I'm going to have it build formulas and spreadsheets.
Right. Um, the other thing I've had to do is I've been working on. So I don't know how much you know on the software development side. I know you and Steven talk a lot about the hardware DevOps side. Um, but I think you're pretty familiar with the fact that most people, especially people who are just starting with an idea in software, right? Who get someone to build it for them. There's no plan.
Right.
There's usually very little validation of the idea at all.
Yep.
And it's not like you have enough people involved to get a full architectural plan, get a work item breakdown that you can plop into something like GitHub or Azure DevOps or, God forbid, Jira. Um, uh, get user stories created, have a Figma design, right? All those things that go into, like, when you get big in software, you start doing all the right things, right? The small guys don't do that,
Right.
right?
Well, and
Don't sit there going, what if I essentially had an agent to play all of these roles for me, right? And to start proof of concepting it, I had ChatGPT build out, like, this is my company's software development lifecycle. Okay. Here's why I'm doing this, right? Here's the different phases of it. And then in each phase, here's a prompt pack. There's a list of documents you're going to develop, right? So like, for example, ideation and validation. The only thing you have to build on your own completely is the idea brief, right? And what you can do is you can, like, put in meeting notes or talk to ChatGPT and have it build an idea brief for you, right? You take that idea brief and you put it in, and it creates a problem hypothesis document, right? And so on and so forth throughout the entire process. And so what I've built is I can now, when someone comes to the software program, like, I can give you all the documentation that you need to make this successful, right? Without me having to code it, right? You don't need to hire, um, you don't need to hire someone to validate your ideas. You don't need to hire someone to build you an architecture, right? Like all these, and so my concept is eventually I prove this out. I'm gonna actually probably go into Azure AI Foundry and fine tune and train specific agents to perform these things rather than, having prompts through ChatGPT. They'll be saved agents. And then I can absolutely build an interface where it's like, hey, take your idea, talk it out with this open AI assistant that I built, right? And it builds you an idea brief and then starts putting you through the process, right? Um, so AI is wonderful. I've been really getting into it for 6 months, and like all these people are like, it's gonna take away our jobs and things. I'm like, I don't know how.
It it's changing our jobs,
Yeah.
right? But it's empowering us to do more. And this isn't a efficiency play. This isn't to save us money play. This is a let me explore, let me learn, and the automation components of it are you're never going to build the real, not never, but you're not going to build the real product using that
Mm,
because you can sit down and you can Claude code up a real product, but that doesn't run it. That doesn't
right.
scale it. That doesn't mean anybody knows how and why it works. But it can get you to MVP without hiring a dev studio. So if you're a dev studio, you need to figure out what you're doing,
Right.
right? Um, and you're working with founders who aren't willing to or able to learn. And that's going to be a smaller and smaller set. And there's going to be products that you find that you can vibe code and experiment or run it through a process tool, a workflow process tool that says, "Hey, this isn't really valid. We can't back up the market for this. We can't prove that this is valid. This is acceptable." Um, and you tries to do it anyway. You hire a dev studio and build it. I mean, there's
Sure.
always going to be, you know,
No, that's I think that's exactly what my pivot is here, like in doing this and the changing the way we work. Like while I'm while I'm trying to build a company that is a consulting agency, right? At the same time, I'm realizing I've already realized the bulk of my work has been custom software development. And when people look to hire software people or to get people in the tech world, that's what they're looking for. They're looking for help with software development,
right.
you know? So you've got this certain market of people who have ideas and, they could be really good ideas. They could be really bad ideas. And competitiveness in the market does not mean good idea, bad idea.
Nope.
Right. Um, but these people aren't going to hire the number of individuals it requires to build a real solid foundation.
And they
Right.
shouldn't because that's investment money.
Right.
You've got to build just enough to prove people will pay you, just enough to move to the next level, right? It's a stair step, and you've got to work your way up it. If you jump to the top, it hurts when you fall off.
Right. Right. And that's kind of the idea behind what I'm starting to build. It's going to take a little while to get this all there, right? But the start of it is you weren't going to hire all these people anyway, right? But if you prepare this, as opposed to preparing 10% of the foundation, right? You prepare 25, 30% of the foundation, right? Then when you're approaching investors or when you're seeking investment, right? You don't have to work backwards, right? Um, the thing is, most of this stuff can be done in ChatGPT itself. Honestly, like I realize that the data is a little bit dated, but with deep research mode, competitor and market analysis with the right inputs is pretty pretty deep.
Yeah.
I have a client of mine
It's still
who
one data source. You should always treat it as just one data source, but it is very useful.
bro,
Yes.
um I had a client of mine who is in the he's in the title insurance industry here in Texas, and it's I think it surprises a lot of people to find out title insurance in Texas is one of the most heavily regulated industries in the United States. In Texas, of all places, heavy regulation. Okay, um, insurance companies are literally locked into how much they can charge for title insurance. Um, so on and so forth. And so I didn't know anything about the industry aside from what my client told me a little bit, and I had ChatGPT do some deep research to use the deep research mode to give me a um my goal was I need an understanding of the Texas title insurance industry. And it broke down the different sections, residential and commercial, that built me a 30-page document that explained all the key players involved, the Texas Department of Insurance, this and that, right? I was just amazed. I was like, I could read this and literally be sitting there talking turkey with a guy who knows this, who's an expert in it, right? And while I'm not an expert, right, I can at least now keep up. And that is powerful. Like that ends up being a pretty big deal, I think. So it's not something that you're used to getting into. It really, it does the same thing that remote work, I think, did in our industry, which is, hey, instead of now having a very shallow pool of people who can really talk about your idea and connect with you, you, I think, like you said before, it surfaces enough information that I can reasonably talk to somebody and we can actually work together to solve problems.
Right. Yep.
So it's been
I've
pretty
been
good experience.
I've been using study mode a bit lately. And sometimes I'm not sure what the difference is or what it's supposed to be doing, but it does feel different. It definitely feels more asking questions, prompting me to learn from it versus regular ChatGPT that is a bit prone to just kind of run with whatever I said. I don't know, and I don't know how much of that is study mode versus whatever the random model selections of GPT-5. Um, because a lot of what I've been doing has been with GPT-5, even though I often have to switch back to 4.0 after a couple of hours because it will lose context, and 4.0 has a longer context window.
Right. Yeah, I haven't tried the study and learn mode yet. I'm going to. Um, I keep seeing the new things
I used it
and
to get my refrigeration license. It worked really well for that because it went straight into like test presentation mode. Right? I was like, test me on this stuff, and then
wow.
teach me it. Right? And it was like working through the textbook with examples at the end and all of that. Right? Or where you take the sample test at the end. It was really good at that. Um,
I wonder that makes me wonder if like I may try it out in context of the Azure fundamentals certifications, things like that, right? Just to see where I would fall. I don't have any interest in paying Microsoft a bunch of money to be certified in something that I do every single day. Um, Mostly because most people don't even care. They're like, "Oh, you're in the cloud somewhere? Great. Yeah, that's fine."
right.
But it's interesting to hear that it will test you and then teach you.
And it works inside with projects. Not all things work with projects, so it works with projects. So you can drop a corpus of specific knowledge in there and work from it, and it will still blend it, of course, with its own model knowledge.
Yeah.
Or go search for more.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
It made me getting my refrigeration license like a 2-hour thing.
Um, yeah. Okay. Well, look into that. The coming weeks, and I'll talk about this more. So maybe I may take some clips from this. I got this book coming out, and I actually have this guy I used to work with. A guy he used to. This is interesting how he pivoted. It's taken him like 8 years, but he was running a QA automation firm out of St. Louis, um, back in like 2017, 2018, 2019, something like that. And it was failing. He had employees, like he had a whole thing. It was good for a little while, and then he couldn't get companies to sign on. They couldn't get companies to see the value in automating QA stuff and all that. And ended up starting to fail. And I was talking to him because I was doing work for a company at the time that I thought like at first it was, hey, like I really think this company could use what you're offering. And he tried, but they didn't want to do it. And we would still talk. And he basically boiled down to that business closed up and it was real hard for him. I walked him through that. I'm like, okay, man, if you know you're failing, right? You want to take care of your employees. That's exactly how I would feel. So we walked through that. He helped get his employees squared away. And um, once he was done with that, I'm like, okay, so now you're closing up. Where are you going to pivot? What are you going to do? And he goes, I really think, because I was doing some podcasting at the time, he goes, I really think I'd like to get into podcasting. And over the course of the last 8 years, he has built an entire company that essentially uses podcasting as a marketing funnel for people. And so I was like, dude, I think maybe this is something I should do. I would like to get on some podcasts, talk about the book. And so I'm taking a little bit of a risk. Um, but it's interesting because he sets up like 10, he basically for what I paid, I'm gonna get 10 interviews that end up being 10 funnels. And each interview is a specific funnel in a specific area. And because of the speed, I'm doing the first 3 with him. Um, but he pulls in his network of people, executives and others, and like he's just got this. He's got a pretty big LinkedIn network that he's built over the years, right? And I'm I've never really thought about the fact that you can you can literally just build a network of people, followers. You can just like I'll tell you, I connect with some of the most random people on LinkedIn.
Mhm. Sure.
And like I send the connection. They're like, yeah, sure, whatever. What's up? You know? And then you can invite them just to a meeting like this, you know, talk about your stuff, guide the conversation, do an interview style, whatever, right? Speak for 45 minutes to an hour and suddenly, and then build a landing page around that whole thing. And now you cut up that interview into however many pieces of short form content you can find. You've got video short form content. You can make graphics around what you said. Like, and I went, dude, this is a genius idea.
Right?
You know, like, how have I missed this the entire time in what I've been doing?
'Cause you've been busy working.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a kind of work too, though, right?
Right, but
Like,
you've been writing code.
that's true. And to be perfectly honest, up till about 6 months ago, that was extremely lucrative.
Mhm. Yep.
Like, that like, enough to put me in a tax bracket I'm almost ashamed of. That's it was it's a good business. And if I had just been in the right industry, I probably would have stayed. But unfortunately, I was in federal government software, consulting, so that went right out the window. Um, but yeah, like, I think that there's all these ideas, and what we're gonna be seeing, not just from AI, but from the shift in the labor market, what you kind of been talking about and alluding to with, how difficult it is for everyone to find regular things. Like, we're gonna have a very big shift over the next couple years with how people find and do work.
Yep.
Um, I do think that a lot of the this is why I'm a little bit worried for Steven, but, like, I'm glad he's thinking about it. I do think a lot of it's gonna be very local based. I've been talking to a couple of local healthcare providers, doctors, and like we suspected, they've got a random IT guy whose number you can find on Google under his name when you search for IT. That's their IT guy. And I'm like, "You're a you're a doctor's office. Like, don't you worry about." So here's the funny thing. Person I'm talking to, like, I'm talking to him because, uh, my wife is on the board of the soccer association as the registrar, and one of the local docs, um, uh, family health providers is the director of coaches. So I'm there at this meeting with my wife, and he's there, and his wife is there. And we come to find out she's also a doctor, but she's the business brain. He's not, right? So when I say things like, "Aren't you worried about what your front desk, like, if someone gets an email and they get phished and like everything that can happen?" They're like, she's like, "Yeah, I'm a bit worried about that, right? We have all these firewalls and stuff." I'm like, "Firewalls won't protect you against ransomware." Um, uh,
Already inside if you can click it.
yeah. Um, but him, the other non-business guy is like, yeah, I don't even know what you're talking about, really. Just made me laugh.
Yep.
I think it's gonna be a lot of local. I think there's gonna be a lot of people who are gonna end up like they're trying to run and keep these businesses in. And when you like, am I wrong? Let me ask your opinion on this. Am I wrong in the idea that when times get tougher for a lot of people like they're becoming, we end up seeing a marked increase in the amount of scammy behavior?
Maybe. I think I think so, yes. I don't know if it's just that it stands out. I don't know that it's statistically more or less. I suspect that if we had real statistical models, I'm speculating that it's probably the same, we just notice it more.
Right.
I mean, and I speak coming from having spent a lot of time fighting spam over the years since, the mid-90s. Um, and seen, gone through a number of the recessions that we've had, be it either tech or full. And and it's always kind of stayed the same. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know.
We do tend to know. I think you're right. I think we tend to notice it more. Like, my landlord here at the office the other day pulled me in because her computer was making all kinds of noise and whatever, and it
It's
had the
gone
boots.
up, mind you. I mean, there is,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to, but I think it's transitioned to computer related, and therefore it's gone up on that side and made it more accessible and available, and you can have a larger surface area, so we see more of it. But I think it's just this is the trend regardless. As it's following the everyone is accessible, everyone has compute in their hands.
Right. Yeah, I noticed an uptick myself in emails where, um, to my personal, where it's like some random person is sending me PayPal receipts
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
for things I didn't pay for. I was like,
Are they coming from onmicrosoft.com?
actually, one might have.
A lot of the phishing scams I've been getting lately, fake receipts, fake purchases, things of that nature, have all been coming from onmicrosoft.com.
Where did I see that? Oh, it's in my personal mail. That'd be why. I had one today. Oh, no. I get a lot of this one's not. I mean, I may have seen before, but I get a lot from Gmail, like
Oh,
random,
interesting. Yeah,
like randomly random names that don't match the random name as that's part of the email address, right? So there's no consistency, right? It's like I wonder how many people like think to look at that.
right. Yeah, the
Yeah.
Microsoft one, here's one from Saturday. This comes from Office Operations. Your free trial is ending soon. Your 14-day trial of Pixel Perfect Pro ends in 3 days. Click here to upgrade your account. Yeah.
Yeah. Click it upgrade or download this PDF, which is gonna somehow blow everything up when you get it.
Yep. PDFs have been so full of yeah.
Yeah, crazy.
The JavaScript and the macros and PDFs that is just so many levels of dangerous. I mean, I appreciate that Adobe has finally started to do things about that where like JavaScript won't execute unless you change the privacy mode of your thing. But of course, that actually breaks tools that need JavaScript because this is a feature, and you can build tools inside PDFs that pretend to be, a a full application. They're almost Turing compliant, Turing complete.
Yeah. Right. Turing complete PDFs. Oh man. We still have here, I don't know in bigger cities in the world. It's been years since I still have quite a few places here that are using Microsoft Access
Mm.
database applications that have been built for them over time. I still come across them who are like, "Oh no, it's fine." I'm like, "It's not fine."
DB4, Fox Pro, FileMaker.
Yeah,
Yep.
old stuff like that. VBA, a lot of VBA.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep. Growing up as a kid, one of our friends, he made tons and tons. One of my parents' friends, they made tons and tons and tons of money building just, little Fox Pro and DB4 applications.
yeah,
Yeah. And lots of people made it off of, FileMaker and my boss at the sunroof shop, he built his own. I don't know. I never knew what he used for it, but it was all MS DOS era, um screen interface and stuff. But he'd built it for running his shop, and he would continue to tweak it here and there, and he paid somebody to build a large part of it at some point, and but he just continued to tweak it here and there. And he wasn't a software guy; he was a car guy. Um, but you could do this even then if you were smart and you applied yourself. You didn't, you could vibe code your way to a complete business operation. Plus,
yeah. And that's like vibe coding is not a new thing, right? Low code, no code tools have been around for, I mean, shoot, not long after the invention of coding to begin with, right? It's like, you know,
arguably, writing code is the low code version because before that, we were putting it on punch cards
right. Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point, And
or
it's like,
actual on off gates of actual physical, relays. I mean,
right. Like, here, hang on, just give me a little bit. I gotta solder some crap to my board here.
right.
And the thing about it is it still hasn't killed any advanced stuff. And like this thing, I don't think it ever will.
Every step made more opportunity.
Right. I think that, and like my perspective on it is because of that, because every step has made more opportunity. I don't think that like, look, I'm a coder and I use AI coding tools. I use Claude, right? I, it's fantastic. I literally last week I have this little project I've been working on for these local guys of mine. They're my client, and the non-tech guy is like, can we get this change? I'd like it to be a little bit easier to do this, do that. Literally, I'm an Angular expert. I I've been in Angular for a decade now. Literally asked Claude to do it in the project, right? I directed it. My prompts are going to be a lot more detailed than your standard vibe coder prompts, right? 20 minutes later, I had a working change set that tested out just fine, right? Push it, done, right?
Yep.
What would have taken me probably 2, 3 hours to get my head into, figure out how to solve a problem, you know, figure out any variations, figure out what dependencies to use, etc. 25, 30 minutes plus a little bit of testing. That creates a whole lot more opportunity for me to do more things. So, and I mean, yeah, my guy Thomas, non-technical, could go out and learn how to do this, learn how to ask for what he wants, right? But the result that he gets is going to be a lot different than the result that I get.
Right.
So it's not going like our stuff's not going anywhere. Like the tech world is not, it's not going anywhere, but it does need to change. It needs to change hard. Um, I see a lot of people freaking out because people who are not coders are coding or are putting code in place. And it's like, well, I mean, you kind of got to blame yourself. You've been gatekeeping the coding world for years and years and telling them that they can't do anything unless they have all this other stuff in place. It's like, why don't instead you try to help people understand how to get from point A to point B even faster?
Right.
You
Because
know?
because they like to write code for a living.
Yeah. I guess I just don't get that because I mean, I can't stand writing code for a
I
living.
mean, some people love the art. Some people love the engineering. That is the thing that they're obsessed with, and that's okay. But that
Don't get me wrong. I feel super powerful when I write something that like really it connects, it abstracts something well, like it implements good patterns. Like it feels good. And I got all those good feelings. I guess maybe just in recent years, the issue is I have come away from a lot of my addictions as a human being.
right?
And therefore, like, I'm no longer, um, for lack of a better word, obsessed with the high. And a lot of people still are, you know, they're obsessed with that high. So it's interesting. I think that the next, um, couple years is going to be a fundamental shift, in how people work. I, I think we're going to see not a backlash, but a rubber band snap back to more local stuff, honestly, but still working remotely. I think this whole return to office is not going to last.
Yeah.
It's not. I think there's too many companies that are offering it for better or equal pay, right? For these big companies to not realize that they're suffering brain drain as well. Like Amazon is a big one that did return to office for most of their stuff.
Yeah.
right? Um, and they're losing so many good people
Yep.
in the process.
But I mean, I think they looked at their numbers and said, maybe we want to lose some people for a while. Maybe we've decided. And the problem with like Amazon, Google, Facebook, some of these is that they intentionally overhired for a long time. With that, we want to capture this market of engineers, because if we have engineers, people who just like writing code, then they can go solve problems for us when we decide we want to, and it also means that our competitors don't have them.
Right.
And then, because in order to save to prop up their public shares, it was great. It's both great and it's positive and negative. Shareholders like it when they look at the numbers that come out of a bunch of layoffs. And so it's also a pool of people that they could use for literally just the purpose of, we're going to keep them on the books. Functionally, this is one of the business decisions. We're going to keep these departments on the books so that when we need it, we can let them go and rejigger the books that way. Right. And make investors happy, prop up the stock, increase stock value. And it's a very complicated, at companies at that scale, it is a very complicated financial model.
Right.
And
Well, yeah, that makes sense, right? Because if you have the place to have a bunch of people who you can effectively put on some projects and get some benefit out of, right? But also they're dispensable, right? And when times get a little bit harder, which for a lot of these companies it is, with contraction of the federal government sector, right?
yep.
Um, we can trim those off and not and effectively even increase shareholder profit during that time.
Yep.
That makes a lot of sense if you look at it if you're looking at it from a non-emotional business level, right? Um, but regardless, that is pretty shitty.
Yes, indeed. It does not meet the don't be evil criteria.
Well, I guess it's a good thing they changed that freaking motto of quite a few years back.
Right?
Yeah. Mm.
Yeah. Um, I don't know. But that acquisition of engineers caused other problems within the industry, right? It left a deficit for the rest of tech, because they hired, and it don't, this is just vague. They hired the greatest and best in their eyes. And doesn't mean that you and I, who never got hired by them, are bad or dumb or poor. But well, we're a lot poorer than anybody who got stock plans out of Amazon or Google. But um, from our from our salaries, uh, but they are just, they captured a specific segment of the market in a specific segment of the market, right? In San Francisco, in Seattle, and it's, I don't know. There's so much to it. There's so much dynamics to it that makes it, but it took it away from everyone else. And so a lot of companies have had to struggle because there was a lack of talent in general in the industry, because it was all getting sucked up. And now it's all coming back. And the thing that I still predict, and we've seen some edges of this, um, now we're multiple years into some of these big tech layoffs, that a lot of these engineers got well and often overcompensated. So they were at Amazon long enough to fully vest all of their starting stock, and they're walking away with potentially millions of dollars in stock in the bank, plus really good salaries even for where they were living. And that translates into idle hands going, what am I doing next? And a lot of them just go silent. They go off, they travel a bit, they do some things, they spend some money, they come home, they play around with the computer, they come up with some ideas, they do other things. They're like, I don't have to get a job yet for another 3 or 5 years. So maybe I won't, or maybe I just pivot all that into investments and I fire. Because a lot of these numbers that come out of that are such that they can.
Right.
Now,
Well, then those numbers that come out of that, like that, I think if I'm understanding it all correctly, that breeds a different problem now,
yes.
right? Because you have a group of people who are picked up by FANG,
Yep.
right? And they're used to certain income level because of that, which is grossly over the income levels that are available in the rest of the industry.
Yep.
Right. But on top of that, because it's been happening for all those years, the Valley and Seattle, CTACs in general, right, has a big problem because their cost of living has adjusted like your weight adjusts. When you sit at a certain weight for 2 years and now that's your default weight, right? Well, they sat at this monetary weight for a number of years, right? And that's what it takes to live there, but it becomes unsustainable in this situation now, right? Or rather, I should say, not necessarily unsustainable. It it ends up creating suffering essentially. There's a bunch of people who are used to $400,000 a year salaries that can't pull 200 now,
Right.
you know, um, and they can no longer live in those areas, right? Which, to be perfectly blunt, not only people couldn't really live in those areas anymore anyway. Um, and I know some people who live in the Seattle Tacoma area, and dang, I don't know how they survive because I live in a cheapo area. East Texas is very inexpensive in comparison. But I also have 3 young boys who are either in or approaching teenage years. And my grocery bills are just going up and up and up, and I don't know
Well,
how
we've
I'm gonna.
just got the 2 of us, and they're going up and up and up. Between
Yeah,
groceries and power and insurance, you know, the things that are non-optional. Yeah.
it is getting there. Getting way up there. But, all right, man, I actually have to go. I forgot about this before. I should have done it at lunch, but I gotta go buy a whistle. I'm a coach without a whistle right now. So I'm gonna go get a whistle and a couple other things and be ready for my first practice tomorrow.
Awesome. Get out there, coach.
All right, man. Thanks. I appreciate you being here.
Alright, man. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.